Episode 95. We should think about what 100 is going to be.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Remind podcast. I'm Dr. Ashley Morland and I'm joined by David Masterton. Today we were just chatting about the end of an era because just prior to us jumping on to record today, I finished the very last session of my live delivered program called Rise and Thrive. I've been running it for 4 years. It's been my bread and butter. It's been the thing that I have led hundreds of people through all around the world. And it really was, I guess, the bridge that got me out of my academic career and into this business as a viable business, because it was my primary mode of income in the business and the thing that I focused on the most. So there was a lot of emotional connection to this. And also, Dave, I know you've been navigating some life transitions as well that really are an end of an era for you. So I thought, what a beautiful opportunity for us to have a chat about like these moments, I think, that we all go through in life where a chapter is closing, and what are the feelings that come up? How do we navigate that? How do we move forward and start jumping into writing the next chapter? What does that look like? I think how both of us approach writing new chapters now is very different to how we even approached writing new chapters a year ago. So,
Jeez, yeah, absolutely. Well done. Congratulations on
thank you.
the end of an era, the live Rise and Thrive. I want to say, so is it over, or is it going to come back in probably maybe a different form? Or is it just going to be purely like a pure pivot?
Look, the name Rise and Thrive, I think, will linger. Mm-hmm. It's part of our, maybe our DNA, part of our identity, and also the programs that we're building around that, like the course that we have that will probably be launched by the time this comes out is Raising Kids to Rise and Thrive. So that is an example of how that, I guess, could you call it brand? The brand of Rise and Thrive underneath the Remind banner is going to have a really long-lasting legacy.
Nice.
But in terms of the program called Rise and Thrive and how I've delivered it for the last 4 years, that will be no more. So, yeah.
And that's going to pivot to like an online self-paced, or is it just you're just going to focus on kids?
No, not just focusing on kids, but a lot of our courses now will be, online self-paced. But our main reason for making that decision, well, actually, to be honest, like you, I think my reason for making the decision was basically I got instructed to spiritually. And I would say I got spiritually prompted. I've got to draw the line, like this is it. And that was really scary initially because I was like, well, but then what? Like, what am I, if I'm not doing that, what am I doing? And the response was kind of like, that's not your problem right now. Like, you need to listen to this prompting and you need to be obedient to that and trust me and have faith. And you just need to do what you've got to do to obey that. So that's what I did. And it was actually really annoying because and you could probably speak to this, so many people in my world would be asking me questions like, oh, so what are you going to do once Rise and Thrive is over? And what are you doing next? And exactly. And even my team, right? Because I'm responsible for paying people's wages and, you know, I have a team. And so when I went to them, thankfully, there's enough track record with us that they know my spiritual process. They know that everything that we do is based off obedience and faith. That's it. So they may have felt a bit uncomfortable with it, but to be fair, so did I. And equally, they trusted. So that was really cool. So to give you an answer, one of the things that I was really conscious of is I started to be aware that there were kind of a few different types of people. Some people just wanted to feel a bit less crap. And you know what? Spending $3,500 and doing 30 hours of intensive, really awesome stuff, don't get me wrong, awesome. Yeah. But for some people, that was overkill. And for some people, it was outside of what was accessible for them financially, time-wise. Like, it was just too much.
It's like, almost like bringing an excavator in to dig a hole for a plant.
Yeah, exactly. So if someone just was particularly overwhelmed with their parenting and they just wanted just the parenting stuff, the thing with Rise and Thrive is it was about the self, but the self has to wear lots of different hats. We're parents, we're in relationships, where, you know, we might be experiencing our own mental health challenges or our physical health challenges. So our conversations and the development in Rise and Thrive kind of just went anywhere, like it went in any direction, and we just applied the concepts to the person in the context of their life. So what we've moved towards now is to make our offerings really specific to, if someone wants help applicable to parenting, they can just do that parenting program where all of the foundational knowledge and all of the information from Rise and Thrive is essentially filtered to pick out and pluck out just the stuff that's going to help people be better parents. Just the stuff that's going to help raise really conscious, connected kids. So, and then packaged up, but also then because it's leaner, like it's not 30 hours, because it is more lean and because it is self-paced, we can offer that at such an affordable price. So the barrier to entry financially is just going to be so much less, and people can just get just what they need. And look, it's still going to be therapeutic in nature, so we'll still be processing therapeutically, still be doing, I guess, the learning, the equipping. We've spoken before about the capacity versus capability, so we're still covering off both of those, but just in a really, really highly applied and very specific way. So, yeah, we're starting with the parenting pillar. Then we are shifting our focus. We've got a whole entire course written specifically for anxiety, for adult ADHD, for relationships, and there's another one that I can't remember off the top of my head, but depending on exactly...
Watch this space.
Yeah,
more coming.
Exactly. And it's so interesting because one of the things that someone raised today was like, they asked a question really specific about their child, and it was very obvious once I laid out the content that we had learned in the context of parenting, and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't see that. And I said, I think that's the benefit of this, is every example, every application, every reflection question, it's all specific to that one thing. So, yeah, I don't know what else will kind of come as a part of that, but personally, I'm doing a whole lot more speaking. So
Gotcha.
I'll be doing a lot more speaking gigs this year and working with one-on-one with like high-level clients, so a lot of high-level leadership work, and see what else unfolds.
The big pivot.
Yeah. Honestly, the part of me that is grieving the most is the part of me that dug my heels in and said, but I love delivering Rise and Thrive. Don't take it away from me. I love this program. I love showing up, and I love seeing people have their breakthroughs, and I love the connection that I get out of the program. So that was probably the loudest thing, where I was like, oh, do I have to? I don't want to stop. I don't want to give it up.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's like you've spoken about sort of comfort. And for the eagle-eyed viewers, you'd be noticing that a couple of things. My backdrop's a little bit different. I am sitting down, and I'm wearing these big old things. That's because I've moved. Moved to a new location, sold the house, And a bit like yourself, it's sort of like, well, why? I could probably point to a few logical reasons, but they're not the main impetus between or the reason for the move. And every time you said obedience, it's sort of like, I'm not obeying. I don't like, it's like every time you said obey, it's like someone's being trained to do something. However, I resonate with faith and trust. I trust that I'm going in the right direction.
Isn't that interesting? Because it's just around the meaning you assign to the word obedience.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Because
some
it's like,
wording there.
you will obey. So like, I will not do... I will do exactly as I want.
Yeah.
And for me, the connotation was it's sort of like you've been trained to do it a certain way. So yes, my connotation of obey was sort of a bit more negative. So
Interesting.
Note for future David.
Yeah, and also helpful for current Ash, because to paint a picture of the definition or the picture of obedience in my mind is not that I'm being oppressed, not that I'm being punished or forced, but that I've had a prompting, and in my spiritual discipline, I'm called to surrender my will and my ego and my resistance and everything else and lean into trust. So I could, that's actually really helpful. The word obedience, I think even for a previous version of me before that picture of it changed, probably would have been activating for me. So
yeah, absolutely. So so yes, we've moved into a new place, and like a bit like yourself, I've been in a process of surrendering, letting go, people, places, relationships, expectations, all of those. And I always thought, well, at least if I have the comfort of this, and this being my house and surroundings, and that house was where I did a lot of my healing, then, I'll be okay. And then when the prompting came in to move, I'm like, you're kidding me. It's like, haven't you taken enough?
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like, okay, if I had to really think about what's going on, why am I being resistant around it?
Was it an attachment or?
Well, I don't know if it was so much an attachment. It was this kind of sense of I was projecting expectations. It's sort of like I was going through this situation of, and I'll probably go back a few steps, the surrendering to the healing. Let's go back to that. When you first do it, right, it's usually you've come across it for one reason or another. Either everything's turned to hell, or you've been running away from it so hard that eventually it catches up, and you sort of decide, all right, I'll start leaning into it.
Yeah.
And you
the classic, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You start to lean into it, and then you start to learn more about it, and then you start to process, and you feel a bit better. And then for me, it's sort of like, well, if I'm doing all of this for my healing, what's the payback? There's this expectation of if you heal, you'll feel great. If you heal, all of these things will happen. You'll step into your abundance. You'll step into your authentic self. You're raised to the highest vibration possible. All of these things which are promised. And so I was still holding on to that thing, because as I was sort of going, okay, I'm judging. It's like as I'm doing this, as I'm letting go, as I'm surrendering, I'm not necessarily seeing the things coming back around. And so I always sort of anchored into, okay, my security, because I did a lot of my healing, I have been doing a lot of my healing single, and wanting at the same time being a very involved dad, and not necessarily focused on my financials, because again, that's not been something I've been nudged to do. It's about being an involved dad, healing journey, volunteering's been very high. And so I thought, well, as long as I had that hub, and that hub was the house, that I could do it all. It was kind of like that that partner in crime that I didn't necessarily have.
The soft landing.
Yeah, and look, that's not saying I do not or have not had people around, but again, it was my projection of what I thought I needed.
Yeah.
That sort of intimate support. And so I kind of found that with that space around me. And it still is a beautiful place. Very healing, very nurturing. It had its own creek running down the backyard, deep in nature. Did a lot of grounding. Started my cold water exposure in the creek. And it was sort of that. So I thought, as long as I had that, take everything else, it's not a problem. So when that had to go, it's sort of like, well, you really are stripping me bare.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, and still, even though I was being supported in little bits, I was expecting bigger payback. It's like, if I'm going through all of this, I should be getting more than what I'm receiving.
And you should be getting it now. You should be able to see it already.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've done my part, universe. Where's your part? Come on. And so it's sort of like, holy crap. And I'm still waiting for for me to look back and go, oh, because I still don't see it.
Yeah.
I still don't have and I guarantee a future version of David's probably saying right at this exact moment, I get it now. That's why I had to go through it, because I still don't have it. However, it's, again, and I think it comes back to this obedience. It's sort of like when you train someone to do something, either through fear or, rewards, they'll do it based on that, where I'm doing everything through faith and belief.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where I'm associating that obedience kind of thing, because it's all a choice. Everything I do is a choice. So I've been closing chapter out of chapter out with almost being breadcrumbed. I've had enough just to get through. I haven't had that sort of, if I had to look at everything I've released to what's coming back, well, I'm sort of, So I'm not doing that through obedience.
Yeah.
You will. It's sort of like, if someone tells me I can't do something, it's almost like, you watch me do it.
Oppositional defiance.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so fascinating, because the image that keeps coming to my mind as you're talking is a mother where she just finds out she's pregnant and then she's holding her baby in her arms. And so you can go from here to here and go, oh, this is so exciting, and oh my gosh, this is so beautiful and so special and so amazing, and I'm so grateful. But between those 2 points in time, you can have hell. And so the pregnancy can be complicated and uncomfortable and painful and require sacrifice and compromise and all this stuff. And then childbirth, oh my goodness, painful. But I don't know if it's a belief or an agreement or something that I have, is that if it's not good, it's not done. If it's not good, we're not done. Because if I'm thinking that I'm literally in the peak of my labour and I have this attitude of this sucks, I'm done, that's it, well, it's premature, because I was only this far from the good bit. And that's something that's been really encouraging for me in the storms that have led to these closed chapters, is that if it's not good yet, God's not done. That's for me. But you can simplify that of if it's not good, then it's not done yet. Yeah. So I think that it's exciting, because I've been able to obviously journey with you through this chapter, and now particularly with the house, that chapter's closed. You're starting a new chapter. But the same character is entering that next chapter. It's just going to be a different story. And I can't wait to see what this story's equivalent of holding that baby in your arms is going to be.
Oh, it's going to be incredible, because a lot of the stuff that's being reflected in the 3D in my reality just doesn't add up to what I've let go, sacrificed, healed, and all of that. But I think that's going to be the beauty in it all. It's sort of like, okay, if I could see everything, then it's just a series of actions, and my brain has allowed me to do that based on the pros and cons and the risks involved, risk versus reward versus faith and trust. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty incredible. But every time, and this is the funny thing, I've also noticed that as I've been going through this period, I'm also noticing how deep my expectations run.
Yeah.
And that as you go through the surrendering process, so surrendering for me has been difficult as someone who's come from very much, if I can fix it, I'm happy. If I can fix them, I'm of value. If I can help people by solving problems, I'm in a great space. And even if that helping them solve problems means overstepping my reach when it comes to assisting, even to a point of perceived controlling. And the surrender process means that, like, you surrender without expectation. And so I've got the surrender part down, but it's been a battle. So it's sort of like it's surrendering, however, it's been battling the expectations of I am doing the surrendering, however, I sometimes feel like I'm at peace with surrendering, and then followed by massive waves of what the more and more. And then don't get me started that as you're doing this, where I've noticed even in the last week or so, you surrender even more and you do the things, you then don't realise your expectations, especially for me, and then creeping back up. Because I'm expecting that if I'm doing this, then it should be easy. Okay, no, it's not easy. So my capacity to deal with setbacks during this has been a massive eye-opener around expectations.
Yeah,
like, what is the true essence of surrender? People can talk about it logically and they can tell you this is what you do to surrender, but to have that real sense of embodiment, I'm getting a real lesson on that now.
Yeah.
Which is surrendering at its pure essence is the ability to do the to do the surrender, but to also feel the surrender. What does feeling the surrender mean?
Yes. All the yeses.
So
I wholeheartedly agree. It's so funny you say that, because I was literally sitting in church yesterday, and I don't know why this was coming to me, but I was thinking about how so often we choose our own suffering because of our unwillingness to freely give. And I'll give you a silly example. So I was thinking about someone who is experiencing something that the ketogenic diet, for instance, could drastically help. So my husband had a neurological issue, and he did a very, very strict ketogenic diet at my recommendation for about 4 months, and it completely resolved it. So all of his symptoms completely resolved.
That's awesome.
Now, that to me is miracle healing. Like, how amazing that he could go from having this neurological condition to now being completely symptom-free. But he had to surrender in order to have that, because he could still be experiencing the same neurological symptoms today. And someone's comment was, I could never do that because I love potatoes too much. And I was kind of pondering this. I'm like, okay, your journey. That's okay. But if we believe that healing is possible and my attachment to potatoes exceeds my desire for freedom and healing, well, then that lack of surrender of the thing that I'm attached to is the very thing that's stealing my healing. And the thing that this was bringing up for me is that it's one thing for us to obey and hand it over, but if our heart posture in handing it over is like, I don't want to do this, and we're holding on, we're emotionally and metaphysically holding on to it despite the fact that we've physically handed it over, well, then we haven't surrendered at all. We haven't handed it over. So it's an embodiment. And that, to me, that embodiment is, this has been a real big focus, particularly in this last cohort of Rise and Thrive, is talking about reality testing and go, okay, so hypothetically, I want you to imagine what handing it over would look like and notice how that feels in your body. And if you're feeling resistance in your body, well, then actually the problem is the resistance that's making you want to keep it in the first place. And when I was doing this myself, I was thinking, because I was reflecting over my life, that there's been multiple times in my life I've been at my goal weight. I've been super fit, super healthy, but I've never stayed there. And I've had this journey of gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight. And I know that I have things that I need to surrender. And when I was reality testing it, I was like, okay, so how does it feel in my body if I surrender this part? That feels totally fine. I can hand that over tomorrow. I'm totally okay with that. How does it feel in my body if I surrender that part? That feels totally fine. I'm at peace with that. I can hand that over and not have any resistance. And I asked myself, okay, if I was at my healthy weight and I stayed there for a year, how would that feel? And my whole body just went, no, like resistance in my whole body. It was like, nah. And so it was almost like, okay, I'll let you go there. You just can't stay there. So I have some stuff that is sitting beneath the surface that unconsciously I'm wanting to hold on to and not surrender, because for me to stay there doesn't feel safe. So really fascinating. And
I'd like to deep dive on that, but we'll maybe do it for another stage.
Well, I'm still on the journey, so I don't know that I have a whole lot more to say about it at this point because I'm still exploring that. But I love the point that you make about handing something over is not surrendering. And my husband and I were just talking recently about someone who, in his world, who had said, I'll pre-frame this with some context, that quite often, spiritually, if someone truly, truly surrenders their life and gives their heart to God, like gives their heart to Jesus, really, really, truly says, all right, I'm going to do it your way. I'm going to follow you. Quite often they can come against some pretty significant attack and things get pretty intense and pretty hard. And it's a very, very common experience. And from a spiritual warfare perspective, it makes a whole lot of sense. But that's a future us conversation. But my husband was saying that he was talking to someone who said, I've been a Christian for years. I'm like, I never had that attack. And then only, I don't know, it must have been last year sometime, this person said, I'm so sick of being lukewarm. Like, I say I'm a Christian, but I go to church, I do the thing, I show up and like I do Christianity.
They do the thing.
Yeah. But I'm sick of this. Like, I'm either all in or I'm all out. Like, I'm over this. I'm either all in or I'm all out. And they ended up making the decision to go all in. And so they surrender truly, despite considering themselves to be Christian for so long, they truly surrendered their life and their heart, and all of a sudden experience that attack. And so I think that from a spiritual perspective, there can be these strongholds that can go, nah, they're not even really a threat. They're not even serious about this. Don't even waste your time, resources, or energy on that, because they're just doing lip service to this. It's when the lip service is followed up with that absolute embodied conviction that there's real threat of change. And I think surrender has got to be more than just going through the motions. It's got to be a heart posture thing.
Oh,
I think
absolutely. But I think to get there is you get the awareness of what you need to surrender. And then you sort of do it, or you build the courage to take the first steps.
Yes.
And then once you start doing that and you battle yourself, you battle your expectations, you battle your traumas or limiting beliefs or whatever it is, because normally they're not easy things to get rid of. So if I was encouraged to never listen to AM radio, that would not be a problem.
Exactly.
Right? So it's going to be done. Easy
Exactly.
win.
Like if someone said to me, to heal your neurological issues, you've just got to stop eating sardines. No worries, mate.
Yep, done.
Easy. I can hand that
Absolutely.
over.
Yeah. To live your highest and best life, you just need to leave coriander out of your life. Yeah. Easy done. Like, where do I sign?
Yeah.
And so you start to get this idea of, okay, then you start doing it, and it's not easy. So, and I think you mentioned before about spiritual warfare. It's like, okay, if the devil's not bothering you, then you got to ask yourself, are you doing his work?
Exactly.
Right? Now, I'm not sort of saying because no one's got it easy. I doubt anyone who's still the happiest they can be, and you look at them and they've got the perfect Instagram profile, they've got the money in the world, they're still fighting something. They're still dealing with something. It's just that when you're projecting or you're looking at them, you go, well, if I had what they had, I wouldn't have any problems. Well, maybe not. And so when you start doing it, it's like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing the action. I'm doing the surrender. I'm not surrendering in the surrender. I'm doing the surrender.
You're doing it, yes.
You're doing the surrender.
As a checkbox.
But that's how else do you start? No one just goes, and I'm going to do it. If people could do that, that'd be amazing. But I think even kids today, maybe their kids could come into that kind of awareness once we have evolved and healed to a point, hand the baton on to our kids or the next generation. They take what we've done and what we've instilled in them, and they do a better job than what we did, and we take it up a notch. And then maybe for their kids, they're starting to get to a point where they can just come in and they understand and appreciate the surrender and all of that. But as we stand right now, this is part of the change, part of the cycle. So when you get to that sort of sense of I'm doing the surrender, you're being pummeled.
Yeah.
You have
100%.
You have some incredible times where you're grateful, but it's never 100%.
Yep.
You have times where you feel like that, okay, I want to end this. And I've had times not where I've wanted to, end my life. I haven't had that. But there are some times where I've gone, I tell you what, closing my eyes for the last time would be a sweet relief. And then you fluctuate kind of between the two. The good news is over time, once you've gone through the valley of death, the dark night of the soul, you will come out the other side, and the deep, dark bits don't stay as deep. They don't go as deep as you heal through them. And so during this time is where I've been seeing where I'm in my depths is due to my expectation.
Yeah.
Not that I
yes,
want.
you are putting you there.
Correct.
And I think that's a breakthrough. Like that, how different is that to feeling sorry for ourselves for being there? Although there might still be a little bit of
You
that.
have to. It's impossible not to at the moment.
Yeah, but it's really different to feeling like you have been put there at the mercy of someone else or at the hands of someone else or at the doing of someone else. And for me, like the frame of reference that I used to have of God was like God was punishing me and all this sort of stuff. Like I used to believe that stuff. But now I'm like, oh, okay. So the good is available for me. The miracle is already there. The only thing I have to do is surrender the stuff that I'm attached to and don't want to give up, and like the potato, right? Like the miracle and the healing is already available to me. It's right there. I've just got to be willing to hand over the potatoes. And it's my unwillingness to hand over the potatoes that's keeping me unhealed, not the lack of healing available to me. And I think that's such a powerful point.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that came up for me, just as I was saying that, is this level of awareness. I think that previous times in my life, I have been attached to the identity and the narrative of the story that I haven't. My attachment to the chapter has kept me keeping chapters open much longer than that chapter needed to be open for because of my unwillingness to close it. And so I think that is probably our collective growth, but both you and I in this experience, these experiences.
Well, everyone alive at the moment's going through that.
Yeah.
Like it's this, I won't even say generation, right? Because this awareness is like a light bulb turned on and everyone in the room's getting the light.
To an extent, yes. But I still come across people who are unwilling to close chapters that need to close.
And that's fine. But I'm saying
100%.
But it's like everyone from young kids to older generations. Like it's not sort of something that has been passed down. What we're undoing is what has been passed down, which is this unwillingness to give up potatoes. We'll go back to,
and it's,
to
it's
that
essentially,
metaphor.
is that entitlement? Like it's entitlement. Well, no, I should be able to have my potatoes and be healed. You have to heal me, but I'm not giving up my potatoes.
No, well, I'm sort of using it metaphorically along the sense of a baby's not born with these expectations. A baby is raised into this thing of, I need to hold on to the potatoes. That's been put into us.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
either if you want to talk about, generational karma coming through, or whether this is just how we were raised through parents and as a society, and their parents and all of that, like it was drilled into us that you don't give up the potato unless there's something else, right? Or you give up the potato, especially being a capitalist, you give up the potato for mashed potato or a baked potato.
Yeah, it's a transaction.
Right? So it's not as though, because it would be amazing if someone says, you know what, your life would be better tomorrow if you just gave up the potatoes. People would go, here it is, look, go, done. But
then
with that attachment.
Then they go and find, I don't know, something else to poison themselves with because it's not been a heart posture change. It's just been an obedience, doing.
I mean, if people wake up in the morning not wanting to feel like crap, people wake up in the morning not really wanting to poison themselves. The poison is the escape. It's like the drugs, the alcohol, all of that is to get away from a feeling of just feeling like crap. And so
It's
if people...
fear.
Yeah, well, and they want to get away from that fear at whatever level. So, absolutely for me, am I a comfort eater? 100%. Have I been doing a lot of it while I've been going through my healing? Absolutely. Because I know what to do to get to a lower weight. And, keto's been a big part of my life in the past, even done carnivore. But I did not have the capacity, the bandwidth to be doing all the healing and devoid myself of any comfort.
Yeah.
And part of me struggled with this sort of thing of, but why do I need that comfort? nothing tastes as good as feeling fit feels, right? And so I always had this running through my head, but it's being kind to myself to go, if I was an absolute machine and devoid of emotion and not needing any healing, I could do it all at once, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm aspiring to be, and so I'm working my way through what I'm being guided to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really powerful, isn't it? I am wondering how to wrap up this conversation because I feel like we could continue.
We absolutely could. I think the best way to sum her up, and what are we calling it? End of an era, end of a chapter, something like that, is that the only constant in this life is going to be change. And so as we go through that change, like even if you don't change your job, you're going to retire. If you don't, if you live up till the day you die, well, there's still going to be that change. You've gone from a single cell to a fetus, to a baby, to a toddler. That's all been changed. And so it just depends on what's going to motivate your change. Is it going to be the logic, the fear? Is it going to be the herd mentality of I must follow so I can feel safe? Or are you going to start to listen to your own internal intuitive nudges that lead you through the change? And guess what? At the start, they're going to scare the living out of you.
Yeah.
However, there will be the change you want to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for me, when because I'm such a visual person, I imagine closing that chapter. It's literally closing the chapter. And then I've got this blank canvas for the next chapter. And there was a time where I wouldn't have been courageous enough to close that previous chapter until I knew what the next one was going to look like, and I knew what the table of contents was going to be, and I knew what was going to be in it, and who the characters were, and what clothes we would wear, and what we would like, all the things. I needed to have all the information to feel safe enough to even open that chapter. But I think for myself, and I see this in you, and also my encouragement for people listening, is that one thing I've learned is that sometimes if you're just willing to close that chapter, open the next one with an open heart, an open mind, a willing spirit, the story that's written in it could be greater than you could even imagine.
Yeah.
And
100%.
if I sat down, I can't tell you how many times I have had this experience, particularly in the last few years, where I sit down and I reflect on the chapter of my story that was, and gone, even if you gave me 1,000,000 pages to write down what I might have expected, that wasn't on it. Like, I could not have predicted that. And it was so much better than I could have even predicted. And I think, reflecting on where I'm at today, the answer is I don't really know what the future holds for me. I don't really know what the future holds for Remind, and it excites me. Because I know that whatever it is going to be amazing. And even if there's storms, my belief of if it's not good, it's not done is going to get me through the storm. Yeah, I hope that there's some encouragement there for people.
And when nothing is certain, and I know like this is lip service, right? But there's truth to it. If nothing is certain, anything is possible. I keep on hearing that, and I look forward to the day where I fully, like at the moment, I'm in the middle of the battle. I understand it as a concept, and I look forward to it crystallizing. I'm not looking at it at the past tense going, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The other one that you sort of mentioned, and I've heard a slightly different version, is it's all good in the end. Yeah. And if it's not all good, it's not
it's
the
not
end.
the end. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's saying the same thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
I love that.
All right.
Well, I'm grateful for this conversation, and I hope that if you're watching or listening to this and you are maybe contemplating closing a chapter, or if you're feeling just that rustling in your spirit, you're feeling that like prompting in your gut, you know within you that you've got to make a change, you've got to end something, you've got to close off something, you've got to change something, and you've been looking for your invitation to do so, then maybe
This video's for you.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe this is the message you were waiting for, to know that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have the whole plan meticulously laid out. You simply have to close the chapter, open the book, and hand the pen over and say, I'm willing to do it your way, like willing to surrender my will, because in my experience, as I said, the story that was written when I've handed the pen over has been infinitely better than the story that I ever could have written with the pen in my own hands.
And I'll keep you posted on mine. All right, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Like and subscribe.
All
Bye-bye.
those things.
Yep.
Bye.